Ladies and gentlemen and work experience students, we're going to talk today about investment basics. So, everything we're talking about right now is part of your key to becoming wealthy, being able to give generously, and retiring well with dignity. And I'm serious about that. If you follow these things that I'm going to be talking to you about in the next few weeks, you will do very well. All right. All right. So the first thing is I'm going to talk about is a custodial account. So my goal for you is to invest in the stock market. And if you're 18 or over, you can have a brokerage account, which allows you to buy and sell stocks online. If you're not 18, you can get what's called a custodial account. So a custodial account is a brokerage account set up and managed by an adult, probably your parent or guardian, and turned over to the child when you reach the age of majority, which is 18. So your parents control it, and then when you turn 18, you do. My goal is for you to start one. I want you to do it. I can't make you do it. It wouldn't be okay if I tried to make you do it, but I want to encourage you to do it. Like I said, it's going to be your key to becoming rich. You can just track the stock if you don't want to participate. Okay, so you're going to pick at least one stock and you're going to track it. My hope is that instead of just tracking it, you actually purchase it and you can track the stock that you own. Okay. So the nice thing about some of the custodial accounts, the one I use with my kids is Stockpile. They allow you to buy fractional shares. So let's say that a share of Apple Computer was $400 and you didn't feel like spending $400 on one share of a company. Well, you can buy little pieces of a share. So you could spend $5 and own one of your favorite companies. Okay. So if you want to do some searching around on like what stocks to buy, you can go to that website. That's a good option. Click on one of these things and it'll give you an idea of some good custodial accounts. You can try to type in those links. So those are some options. If the PowerPoint's available, you can just open the PowerPoint and click on those links. All right, so let's talk about stocks. So when you're investing in the stock market, you're buying stocks. So what is a stock? So if you were in class, we were going to think per share. Because we are not in class and you're just listening to me, I will just ramble on about this stuff. Okay, what is a stock? A stock is when you purchase a piece of a company. Why do people buy stock? Typically to make money, specifically for retirement. A lot of people will buy stocks so that when they retire, they can sell those stocks little by little and live off of that money. All right, so buying a share. So this is part of the note. Anything in red is a note I want you to write down. So that's part of the assignment. Buying a share of a stock means you're purchasing a small piece of that company. Stocks are riskier than some other investments, but have the potential to reap higher rewards. So that's why so many people invest in the stock market. It has the potential to make really good money and allow you to retire well. Why do companies sell stocks? And what are the two ways to make money in the stock market? Well, let's answer those questions. Companies sell stocks to raise money. So here's an example. So like, I don't know how many years ago, it's probably like 15, 20 years ago now. No, not 20, probably more like 15, 17 years ago. Google was just owned by a couple of guys, right? And all they had was their search engine. And so they went public, which means they went from being the two guys owning the company to selling it on the stock market. And they raised like $1 billion. Like in one day, these guys went from just regular guys to being billionaires. But the thing is that money wasn't profit, so they actually used that $1 billion to reinvest in the company. So, like I said, Google was just a search engine, and after that, they started like the Androids, where they have phones, and they started the self-driving cars, and they started Google Classroom, and they started the Google Docs. All that stuff is new, and was all based on the money that they raised when they went public with their company, right? So the Google guys, the two guys that own Google, were super happy because they made a ton of money, way more money than they could have ever made before. And all the people who purchased Google were super happy because Google stock sold for $100. And then at the end of the day, it was worth $700. And now it's worth, who knows? Like if you had bought $100 worth of Google, it'd probably be worth $10,000 now. Who knows? I don't know. But everybody was happy. So what are the two ways to make money in the stock market? So one way is to buy the stock low. So you buy Google at 100 and you sell it at 10,000. That's awesome. You make a ton of money. All right. The other way is that some companies give out what's called dividends. And so a dividend is when a company makes profit they give a little piece of the profit to all of their owners, everybody who owns stock. So if you own like 1,000 shares of Disney, and Disney gave out dividends, so you would keep your 1,000 shares, but then you would get some cash that you could just keep and put in your wallet, or you could reinvest. Okay, so buy low and sell high and get dividends along the way. What does it mean when someone says that the stock market is up? And so, if on the news, I listen to the news on the way to school, and every day they say, "Oh, the stock market is up" or "the stock market is down." Are they checking every single company that sells stock on the stock exchange? And the answer is no. So what does it mean? How do they know when the stock market is up or down? Well, what that means is they're looking at an index, a stock market major index. Okay, so the Dow Jones, the S&P 500, the Nasdaq. All right, so these things are called indexes, and so if you look at the Dow Jones, it tracks 30 of the largest, most successful companies that are traded on the stock market. Okay, the S&P 500 covers 500 different companies, so the stocks of 500 companies, and there are like a wide range of companies and all kinds of different that produce all kinds of different goods and services. And that's about 80% of the U.S. market. So that's a good percentage of all the stocks sold. And then the NASDAQ is just tech stocks. Okay. So these are called indexes, a stock index. So what does it mean when somebody says the stock market is up? What they're really looking at is one of those indexes and saying, oh, the Dow Jones, these stocks are up. And it's a good indication of how the stock market as a whole is doing. All right. So if you look, by the way, if you look at prices, you can see that over time, the Dow Jones, or the S&P 500 in this case, is done well over time. Now, it has some times where it has done poorly. It has time when it does bad, but normally over time it does really well. Okay, so if you invest in the stock market over time, you're going to do really well. If you save your money in the bank, you're going to not do very well. In fact, you're going to go down because right now, if you put your money in a bank account, you're going to get it like 0.05% back. And inflation is like 7%. And so you're going to put money in, and when you pull it out, you're going to have a little bit more, but everything is going to cost more. So in the reality is you've actually lost money. So you're going to have to put your money in the stock market in good stocks to make any money. Now let's take a look at this thing and see what this says. All right. So right now, politics are weird. The economy is doing poorly. And so if you look at the S&P 500, it's doing really bad today. Okay. But if you look at over the maximum number of years, okay, since 1985, it's like, look how much it's gone up. Okay, so the S&P 500 has done very well over time. So like if you were like right here, it's like, oh my gosh, I'm losing so much money. I'm losing money. I should sell my stocks. No, that's silly because you're buying high and selling low, right? So what you do is you keep it over at least a 5-year period, and so you want to sell when it's high. So whenever the stock market's going back down, that's not a good time to sell stocks. That's actually a great time to start buying stocks. Okay, so this is what the stock market as a whole looks like. Same thing if I look at the Dow Jones. So if I look at the Dow Jones, so yeah, same thing. Today it's doing terrible. If I do over the max amount of years from 1970 on, look at that. That's in tens of thousands. Look how well the Dow Jones has done. Okay, so at any rate, okay, so principle one, the earlier you get in, the better. Let compound interest for you. So like if you get in on the Dow Jones like as soon as possible, right? If you got in there and then you just go over time. So like the earlier you get in, the better, because over time you're going to do well. Okay? So write that down in your notes. Principle one, the earlier you get in, the better. Let compound interest work for you. All right, part two, what makes stock prices change, right? So we said buy low, sell high. Well, what makes the stock price be low? What makes the stock price be high? Okay, so check this out. This is what Warren Buffett, when I wrote this, he was the second richest man in the world. That's changed. Now he's probably the 10th or who knows. But he's made all his money buying and selling stocks. So he's become a billionaire buying and selling stocks. So this is what he said. In the short run, the market is a voting machine. But in the long run, it's a weighing machine. What does that mean? What does that mean? Well, we're going to discuss what that means in a second. So wait, those are two different things. It's a voting machine or weighing. Well, wait, are we voting and just everybody gets to vote on how much a company's worth, or is it weighing and see like how good of a company is this? How like is this a good company or not? Okay, So the answer is it's both. The answer is it's both. All right. So what makes a stock price go up and down? A part of it. It is all based. That's not true. It's partially based on what people think about it. Well, no, that's true. It is true because it's all based on what people think about it. And sometimes what people think about it is correct. Sometimes what people think about it is not totally correct. But they look at things like how strong are the company's financials? Are they making money? Uh, what's the competition doing? Like, does their competition have a better product? Does this company have a good product or service? Are the company's leaders making wise decisions? The popular perception impacts the demand for the stock, right? So if everybody thinks the company is great and they want to buy the stock, the price goes up. By the way, think about this. This was just in the news. So Disney has their leaders have made some decisions, and the governor of Florida didn't like those decisions. They said we don't like what you're doing, Disney, and so Disney was getting a huge tax break, and they said, hey, we don't like you, Disney, anymore. We're not giving you a tax break. And then all of a sudden, people are like, oh, I don't think the leaders of Disney are making good decisions. They're doing things that they think are correct, but they're not doing things that make me money. And so I don't think they're doing a good job. And so all of a sudden, the prices of Disney have gone down, right? So people will definitely look at these things. Now, let's take a look at this. We're about to answer this question. Okay, is it a voting machine or a weighing machine? Is it just based on what people think, right or wrong, or is it actually weighing the value of the company? Is it a good company? And okay, so what would happen if 1,000 people went onto eBay and there was one phone on there and they all were bidding on the same phone? Well, the prices of that phone would go up, and the prices of other phones on eBay would go up, right? Because if people wanted it, they're gonna bid the price up. Well, how about this? What would happen if 100,000 people wanted to buy stock in Apple? Well, in the same way, the price of the Apple stock would go up. How about if 100,000 people wanted to sell stock in Apple? Well, then the price of Apple is going to go down. Okay, so check this out. So you guys have seen pictures of the New York Stock Exchange and Stock Exchange, people buying and selling, right? Well, basically what happened is average people like you or your parents are listening to the news, and they're making decisions on like, hey, I want to buy Apple, or I want to buy Disney, or I want to buy into CNN or whatever. I wouldn't buy into CNN. One of their things just collapsed. Anyway, so people are buying and selling, and some are people like your parents who have a little bit of knowledge. A lot of other people are people who are managing giant funds. So some people have like giant funds where they control the purchases for tons of people, right? And so those guys actually know everything that these companies are doing, right? So some people like you and me have a little bit of knowledge. Some people have a ton of knowledge, right? So some of it is a little bit of voting, and some of it is weighing, like really like judging, like, oh yeah, that's a really good company, they have a good product, so the prices are going up and down. Okay, so all that to say is, back to our original question, what makes the price of stocks going up? Sometimes people are just voting based on, oh, I'm scared the economy's bad, and oh, I don't like what I heard in the news. And sometimes they just vote based on emotion. But in the long run, it seems to work out to where companies, so you're going to get some volatility where the company price goes up and down. But in the long run, the stock market's is going to give a fairly accurate pricing on what these companies are worth. Okay, if that makes any sense. But you can take advantage of that up and down between the opinions and the reality of what happens. At any rate, all that back to this. So the price of the stock is based on what people think. People know about the company, and they want to buy companies that are really good, and companies that they don't think are very good, they might want to buy, but for a smaller price. Here's a quiz question. Is there anything big that is unknown about companies on the stock exchanges? And the answer is not a whole lot. So, for example, when the two Google guys owned Google on their own, they didn't have to report very much about what they were doing, right? They could be very secretive, right? But as soon as they went public and sold their company on the stock exchange, there are rules. And it's like, you have to be honest and tell everybody what you're doing, because this is a publicly traded company and people need to be able to buy and sell accurately. And so all of a sudden now they have to report all their financials and everything about what they're doing. And so, and people, there's, groups of people, companies that buy thousands and thousands of shares of these companies. And so they'll send people over to learn everything about these companies. So they don't just buy and sell thousands and thousands of stocks just guessing. They like actually go to the meetings and learn what these companies are doing when they buy and sell. So there's not a whole lot that these big companies do that's not known. Okay. So another piece that changes is environment, right? So here's an example that's in the news right now. So Elon Musk wanted to buy Twitter, okay, and then the Twitter board. So making up the numbers, but let's say the price for Twitter was $45 a share. Elon Musk said, "I'm going to buy a bunch of it, and I want to pay $57 a share." Well, so it was interesting because all of a sudden we're like, "Oh, Elon Musk wants to buy it." It's like awesome. So I could buy it for 45 and sell it to him for 57. That's great. So all of a sudden, the environment. So Twitter itself didn't change. They're not doing a better or worse job, but the environment has changed, and all of a sudden, the price has gone up. By the way, it was kind of interesting when Elon Musk did that. The board didn't want to sell to him, right? Because they didn't like him, and then all of a sudden, the people who own Twitter are like, wait a minute, I can make a lot of money if you sell to Elon Musk. How come you, the board of directors, aren't looking out for my best interest as an owner? And so if you notice in the news, they changed their mind because what they were doing was based on their own opinions and not what was best for the owners of the stock. Anyway, okay, so principle 2, it's all about performance, how the company's doing. Perception is part of it. What people think about the company, either right or wrong, plus environment. So changes in the environment. So, for example, people who sold horse and buggies, right? They could be a great company that made great buggies, but the environment changed. People don't buy buggies anymore; they buy cars, right? So, the environment is part of it as well. All right, principle 3: buy low, sell high. Is it bad for you if the stock market, if a stock goes down in price for a dumb reason or a temporary reason? No, that's a great thing. It's like, oh wow, the price of this company just went down for a temporary reason. It's going to come back up. That's a great time to buy. So buy low when things go downhill and the economy's bad. Just hang on to it. Buy more stock, and then if you want to sell when it's high. Buy low, sell high. Okay, let's recap investing. Hopefully, I did a good job and you can answer all these questions. So write these down in your notes. What is a stock? It's when you buy a piece of a company, one little piece of a company. What does it mean when someone says the stock market is up? Well, what that means is they're looking at one of the major indexes. And so they're looking at a group of stocks to see, to kind of judge how the stock market as a whole is doing. What is a stock index? Answer that question. What are the 3 main indexes? What are the 2 main ways to make money in the stock market? What is the easy, foolproof way to become a millionaire by age 65? That is, start early, invest regularly, and invest in the stock market in good stocks that make a good rate of return. Okay, what is a brokerage account? What is a custodial account? And what are the 3 principles? Hopefully you can answer those things. All right, here's your homework. Ask your parents about a custodial account. Get a custodial account if your parents are willing to. Next week we'll pick stocks. So if you sign up for a custodial account, and then next week we'll learn how to pick stocks, and then you can buy stock using your custodial account. All right, your homework is to do the get a brokerage or custodial account. So that's in Google Classroom. Find that assignment and do it. All right, excellent. That's it for today.